Hello and welcome back for another historic video. Today we're going to be taking a look at this Azban Amalia deck. The deck centers around the card Amalia, Benavides, Aguirre. This is a 2-mana 2/2 with ward pay 3 life, and it also states whenever we gain life, Amalia explores, meaning we can look at the top card of our library, and if it's a land card, we get to put it in our hand. Otherwise, Amalia gets +1/+1, and then we can either leave that card on top or put it into our graveyard. If Amalia gets up to 20 power, she also destroys all other creatures on the board. So ideally, what we want to do is play out Amalia, and then on the following turn, get her up to 20 power, wiping out any of our opponent's blockers, and then allowing us to swing for lethal. The primary way we do this is with Wildgrowth Walker. This 2-mana 1/3 states that whenever a creature we control explores, we get to put a 1/1 counter on this creature and gain 3 life, which will then trigger Amalia to explore. Amalia's exploration will trigger the Wildgrowth Walker, and this pattern will continue until she reaches 20 power. To set this up, we have 4 copies of Lunarch Veteran for life gain, 1 copy of Haywire Might, which we can tutor if needed to exile artifacts or enchantments, primarily in here to target any lock pieces. C-Note Scout can also trigger exploration to get the chain rolling if we don't have any initial life gain. Gilded Goose acts as early game ramp, and the food token can later be used to start the trigger with life gain as well. Birthing Ritual helps us dig for our combo pieces by looking at the top 7 cards of our library, and then we can sacrifice a creature to put in a creature with mana value X or less, where X is 1 plus the sacrifice creature's mana value. Sees a ton of cards and allows us to find our combo pieces quite quickly. Prosperous Innkeeper for a bit of ramp and also life gain. 1 copy of Springheart Nantuko. We can bestow it as an enchantment onto a creature, and then whenever we play land, we can play 2 to copy the permanent. Otherwise, we just create a 1/1 insect token, which can be used for our convoke costs. At 2 mana, we also have Dina Soul Steeper. She states that whenever we gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Paired with our Veteran and Innkeeper, we can do some good draining throughout the game, and then if we're comboing off with Amalia, we can just drain our opponent out. Extraction Specialist is in here to get back creatures from our graveyard that our opponent has destroyed. Notably, when Amalia gets to 20 power, she destroys all creatures, so she'll destroy the Extraction Specialist as well, meaning if we use the Specialist to bring her back, she will be able to attack for lethal. And then we're running 2 copies of Return to the Ranks, which lets us return X creature cards with mana value 2 or less from our graveyard to the battlefield. Another great way to return creatures that our opponent has destroyed or made us discard to try and combo off and win the game. Lastly, we have 4 copies of Collected Company to look at the top 6 cards of our library, get to put 2 creature cards with mana value 3 or less onto the battlefield, and then 4 copies of Court of Calling. This green spell has Convoke and lets us search our library for a creature card with mana value X or less and put it on the battlefield, which is one of our prime ways of finding our combo pieces, or as I mentioned earlier, the Haywire Might if needed. For the mana base, we're running a bunch of dual lands. We have a copy of Takenuma to return a creature from our graveyard, and a copy of Beseiju to interact again with artifacts and enchantments. So that's the deck. Notably, we don't have a ton of interaction for what our opponent is doing on their side of the board. And if our opponent has some life gain in their deck, then Amalia needs to hit multiple times, assuming none of our other creatures have done damage throughout the game, which is one thing that the deck struggles with. But with the decrease in play in the energy deck, we're not too concerned with the life gain aspect. Don't expect to come up against many matches utilizing the mechanic. The combo was banned in a couple weaker formats, so it does have some teeth behind it, and we're going to see how it does today. Before we jump into the gameplay, I'd like to ask you to please like and subscribe the video. It really helps the channel. And without further ado, let's jump into the games. This hand is good, we'll keep. Have plenty of early game plays, and then Court of Calling to go find our Amalia. I think we'll start off in the Goose here. Opponent showing red mana. We don't want the Veteran to die to something like a shock. up against goblins, so this should be a favorable matchup for us. Play out the Blooming Marsh. Play out the Veteran and the Scout here. The Snoop is holding priority. It currently has the activated abilities of the Prospector, which are on top of their library, allowing it to sacrifice a goblin if they want. Next turn, if everything goes well, we can chord for Amalia, and then we should have the win on the following turn. Don't need another Gilded Goose. Land would be good. And no attack here. Opponent passes it back. Unfortunately, we drew another Walker. Chord is an instant. We can play out the Innkeeper here. Still hold up 5 mana for Chord. Pass the turn. War Chief. Grab Amalia. Don't really want another Chord. Another land is good. And the Walker here should win the game. Our opponent could still have a burn spell, but looks like they don't have any reaction here. And there's the concession. This hand is good. It has all of our combo pieces. Gigantha could mean wizards though, which means our opponent's going to have removal. Amalia is going to be a 3/3 if it survives next turn. And there they are doing some digging. Since they didn't start on a wizard, we might play out Amalia here. They don't have a ton of 3 damage burn spells that could be utilized with that one. Well, I guess we can't play it out here anyway, so we'll do the Innkeeper. Hit for 1. We're missing black mana. Arcanist. So we'll lead on Amalia, and then we'll play out the Gilded Goose. Don't need another Veteran. Springheart. Don't have a land in hand. Don't need an Innkeeper. So we're really doing bad in the lands department. We saw a ton of cards there, and they're still on 2. Notably, they can take out the Amalia, something like a Chain Lightning. They tap out here, so that should be the game. We'll play out the Walker. Doesn't really matter what's on top here. And our opponent concedes. Good game. This hand is fine. Need to get up to 4 mana for Collected Company. Another Gigantha deck. Could be Wizards again. Don't need another Collected Company. We need mana. Pretty sure this is the Wildgrowth Walker too, over here on the side. How serendipitous. Let's see here, we will shock ourselves. Play out the Innkeeper for some ramp. Can hit for 2. There is the Arcanist. We miss on yet another land. Gilded Goose is free to play out with the cord. And then we can pass the turn. If our opponent uses a 1 mana removal spell before combat, then we may not be able to get the Amalia out. Really depends on which the spell is. Love to see another flame here. Soulscar Mage. Another Arcanist would be good. It's just a discharge, but that taps them out. Can't flash that one back. So this should be another win. They wanted to go for the Innkeeper. Don't need a Goose. We'll just play out the Walker. Again, it doesn't matter what's on top. We're going to win in this combat step. There's the concession. Good game. This hand won't do. Not enough mana. We'll keep this, put back one of the Amalias, and then here we will shock ourselves and lead off on Veteran. Looks like we might be up against the Wizards deck again. It's actually a pretty tough matchup for us. They do run quite a bit of removal spells. But here it looks like they're on something different. We'll run out Amalia. Pass the turn. Both the Veteran and the Scout can kick off the chain if we draw into a Walker. Food chain. See what their payoff is. Unfortunately here we are missing a tutor card. We'll just gain some life. Explore a couple times. Don't want an Innkeeper. Don't need another Amalia. Collected Company is good. So hit for 5. This turn our opponent could play out a Scree, go infinite. Recruiter of the Guard can start their chain off. Do they have a way to give their creatures haste? Doesn't look like it, and they just concede. We didn't have this one locked up yet, so our opponent could have played out a handful of these. And then I don't think they disappear at the end step. Next turn they would have had a wide board. We could have tried to attack for lethal if we missed. This hand is slow, but it has pretty powerful mid-game. Opponent plays out a swamp and passes. We'll play a tapped land. Up against a Demir deck. And there's a Psychic Frog. So this is about the worst opening we can see here. I think we'll get down the Birthing Ritual before our opponent can counter our spells. This will at least cost him a Force of Negation. Notably, we don't have a ton of creatures right now to sacrifice to the Birthing Ritual. This will take Collected Company. Goes for the Cord instead. Return to the Ranks is not a terrible pickup here. So we'll play out the Walker, likely to get countered or removed with a Fatal Push. Then we can play a tapped land. There is the Fatal Push. We'll play out the Veteran. No need to play into a hard cast Force of Negation. We'll go to second main before playing our land, see if they fired off a removal spell. They did not. And then we want to upgrade anytime we can here. Try and get more creatures into our graveyard, and we'll get the Scout for the Explorer. Hit another land. So we haven't been doing a very good job with our top decks here. We'll take this hit for now. They haven't dumped any cards into their Psychic Frog, and they're going to get through eventually. Still holding up counter spells. We'll play out the Phantom. Try and hit for 1. And then a Gilded Goose. And play out the Blooming Marsh tapped. Pass the turn. Painful Bond for some card advantage. And we miss yet again. We can actually sacrifice the Scout here. The Goose can generate some more long-term value. Start to drain our opponent. Pass the turn. Discarding a second Psychic Frog. Personally, I feel like that's a mistake, but I don't know what's in our opponent's hand here. So they're playing a Death Shadow deck. Interesting. Should have played the Deluge first. Gain some life. We'll try to bait out their Force Navigation using Return to the Ranks. They tap out here. How many creatures do we want? try for all of them. Opponent's tapped out, so they can't use Spell Pierce. There's the force that we thought they had. Means next turn we can try to Collected Company. Our opponent might have another counter spell though at this point. Thoughtseize off the top. Unfortunate. Scout's not going to do it here. Court of Calling, a bit too late. Painful Bond, draw a couple cards, increase the size of their shadow. Might as well play out our land. Finally find an Amalia. I think we'll grab the Luminarch Veteran here. Can at least come back if we chump block the shadow with it. No Fatal Push. Love to see our opponent discard their entire hand here. Notably, they could have moved Flourish the hand first. Then we will sacrifice our food, gain a bit of life. I don't think we can win this one. We'll play Amalia, see if this gets countered. Interesting that they didn't use the Cling to Dust on the Phantom. That was a missed opportunity from our opponent. Another Painful Bond. We'll sacrifice Amalia, grab our Extraction Specialist, grab our Dina. Good target for Cling to Dust, but it's tapped out here, so they need one from hand. Back up to 5 though. Attack in with both. We have to block both of them. Really only a Collected Company gives us a chance, and that's assuming no interaction from our opponent. What do they grab from outside the game here? Counterspell wins it. Then there'd be nothing we could draw off the top. Extraction Specialist. Not going to be enough here. We can't block the frog if they give it flying. We could get a Gilded Goose. I think Amalia is still one of our only chances here. See what we flip the Specialist into. So we got pretty close, but we didn't have a way to kick off the chain here. Looks like our opponent might also have an instant speed card in hand. There's the Bitter Triumph. So, good game. Opponent had just enough interaction. Early turn Psychic Frog for massive card advantage, and we just came up a little bit short here. On to the next. This hand is good, we'll keep. plenty of life gain, and we have Amalia, so we just need to find our Explorer. Shock ourselves here and play out the Veteran. From our opponent's side of the board, we could be Soul Sisters, we could be Angels. The black mana will give it away. With Return to the Ranks, I think we do just play out Amalia. That way our top decks are much better. Theoretically could have lethal next turn. Three-color deck from our opponent, and they just concede here. This hand is good, we'll keep. We'll start on the Blooming Marsh, maybe the Thicket, and play out the Scout. Really only need black for the Amalia. We have more white cards in our deck. That's why we started on the Thicket. Here we can get Amalia down. And then if our opponent wants to trade with the Scout, that's fine with us. If I were on the other side of the table, I don't think I would trade. And Elite. So here we can play out Blooming Marsh, hold up our Tutor. The first one we can go get our Innkeeper, and then next turn we should be able to win the game. No block here. Now we'll grab our Walker, make sure to leave Amalia untapped. Tap our creatures first since they're going to get destroyed anyway. And here it doesn't matter what's on top of our library, our opponent's tapped out, so we'll just get up to 20 and then win the game. This hand looks pretty good to me. Lead off on the Veteran. Opponent might use removal here. They do not. Could be Boar's Auras. We don't have black lands yet for Amalia, so we'd really like the top deck one. And we do. So we'll try and attack in first. Then since we have two Amalia, we'll play one out. Reprieve, so we're up against the control deck most likely. There's High Noon. We don't actually mind that one. Might as well play around Mana Tithe. Spell Snare is fine. Hit for one. Next turn we have decision whether to try to play out Amalia or Collected Company. I think we'll hold up Court of Calling. Next time our opponent plays out a spell, we can Chord. Alternatively, we can Chord here. See if they flash something out. There's a counter spell. So this turn we're going to collect the company. Not the best. Hit for one. I can say with 100% certainty that our opponent is going to have board wipes in their deck. So here we need to hold up 3 mana for Cord, which is just 1 creature. So we can attack in with the Lunarch and the Wildgrowth. No need to do anything rash. Can just keep hitting our opponent. Keep hitting our land drops. Our opponent will have to make the first move here, so we'll just be patient. That's fine. They play out another High Noon. This will allow us to Cord. We'll let it resolve first. And here we can go grab our Amalia. Alternatively, I think I should have cast that for 3. I messed up. Might as well try and play out our Extraction Specialist here. This is likely to get countered. There is the Plot spell. Can still attack in with Amalia here. Opponent sacrifices their Interrupter. Why did they not get a +1 counter on it? Because we hit a land. So we'll attack in first. Then we'll try the Specialist again. Pass the turn. Opponent takes out our Veteran. So we're really looking to find some of our instant spells. Might as well make a food. Double Specialist here. Not going to work out well for us. They have another Interrupter. And we'll just tap out here. We're not playing around anything. Opponent starts to attack. We'll play the Specialist from hand to avoid discard. Gain 2 life. Eventually our opponent has to run out of counters. Not yet. All right, so there you have the deck. Unfortunately, in that last match, I had to urgently step away from my computer. However, it was turning out to be quite a good matchup. I think at the current state that it ended in, our opponent was slightly favored, even though they were running low on cards in hand. The ones that we had were not tremendously useful in comboing off, and our opponent still had the high noon in play, which meant that we also couldn't just dump all of our cards out. But we definitely weren't out of that one yet, and had a possibility to win it with a few good top decks. As you saw from the gameplay, the deck is fairly consistent at putting together this A-B-C combo. And when you're looking at playing a deck like this, you have to compare it to similar decks such as the Samwise combo deck, which utilizes a similar strategy, however, a different set of payoff cards. One thing I like about this deck specifically is the use of the Extraction Specialist and Return to the Ranks, being able to utilize cards from our graveyard if our opponent has discarded them or destroyed them. Notably with this combo too, the order is a little bit more important, having to play out Amalia before the Walker if you want to be able to attack with it the same turn. I don't think we ran into any scenarios in the game which were done in reverse, but if you have to pass the turn after Amalia has grown to power 20, then your opponent can essentially play out chump blockers and stall for time and so forth until they're able to answer your Amalia or they lose the game. Definitely a very strong deck, and I can see why the combo was banned in Explorer, which is now the Pioneer format. I had a lot of fun playing the deck today and would recommend you give it a try. As always, I'd like to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more content.